Hello everybody, just saying a few words to you as we celebrate this weekend the feast of Pentecost, this great feast of the church. I'm just wondering whether we could just have a little reflection about what exactly are we celebrating. Are we remembering a historical event of something that happened in Jerusalem those centuries ago, or are we celebrating the birthday of the church? Or are we celebrating something in addition to those things? Because I think they are things that we celebrate and remember, that historical event and the birthday of the church. But I think there's something more as well. Pentecost in history of the Israelite people was originally an agricultural feast where people gathered perhaps in May or June time to give thanks for the harvest of wheat or of grain. But in that history of Israel, something was added to that feast. And what was remembered at Pentecost was what had happened to the Israelite people. They'd fled from Egypt into the desert and they came to Mount Sinai. And on Mount Sinai, God made his covenant with the people. He committed himself to them as his chosen people, and they in turn were asked to abide by the rules of the covenant, which include obviously the 10 Commandments. So listen just for a moment to the story from the book of Exodus, chapter 19. And what happens when God appears on Mount Sinai. Listen to all the imagery. Now at daybreak, 2 days later, there were peals of thunder and flashes of lightning, dense cloud on the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast. And in the camp all the people trembled. Then Moses led people out of the camp to meet God, and they took their stand at the bottom of the mountain. Mount Sinai was entirely wrapped in smoke, because Yahweh had descended on it in the form of fire. The smoke rose like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently. Louder and louder grew the trumpeting. That imagery is obviously reflected in our story of Pentecost in Jerusalem, with the story of tongues and fire. And the writer of that Pentecost story in the Acts of the Apostles wanted us to relate the two, Mount Sinai and the Pentecost story. But what was different was this, that on Mount Sinai, God made his covenant with people who were Israelites. The way it's described in the Acts of the Apostles, it's people from the whole breadth of the Roman Empire. And it reflects that in that early church, evangelizing was already taking place. And it was going to be other people too, not just Israelites, not just Jewish people, who were going to become part of this relationship, this covenant that is being renewed, this covenant between God and people, his people. And so we, on this Feast of Pentecost, yes, we do remember the events and we are happy it's our birthday, but we rejoice in the fact that God all over again has committed himself to us and we are his people, God's people. Thank you very much.